So I'm here with Ashley, and she's a huge Harry Potter fan. She's read all the books. Last Christmas, I got her the Hogwarts Library, which actually has the Fantastic Beasts textbook that J.K. Rowling used as the springboard for this movie. She actually wrote the screenplay for this one, her first screenplay. And so this is the first film that really isn't based on any other book. And so I know you said as we sat down to watch this that you were a little nervous because this was the first time you didn't know what to expect at a Harry Potter film.
Well, yeah, and I've talked about this with one of my coworkers who's a huge Harry Potter fan as well, and throughout my childhood, a book would come out every year basically, and then the movie would come out the year after. So myself and other people that I knew would spend the entire time leading up to the movie wondering, oh, how would they do this and how would they do that? And I remember my initial reaction to to the first one, sorry, um, the Philosopher's Stone. I remember my initial reaction to that being, oh, okay, they decided to do that, and oh, so that's how they envisioned it. And obviously, as the books and the movies progressed, they made them stronger, and the characters were more developed, and the visuals were amazing. And it's interesting now to have been thrown this new character, although he's not new because he's mentioned so many times throughout the books.
Newt Scamander.
Newt Scamander. It's interesting to see this world that has, well, technically hadn't been developed yet because it's set prior to Harry Potter's time.
In 1926.
1926, 1927. So it's interesting to see how the world existed before Harry Potter, but to see how they made the world exist after Harry Potter.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and also we have a shift from London and Hogwarts to New York.
Right.
And so we're seeing the American wizarding world.
Which they talk about, which is so cool because, what was it, like 2 years ago, year ago, something like that, they actually announced the names of, maybe it was this year, they announced the names of the US-based wizarding school on Pottermore.
Right, and they have different,
I'm not going to try to pronounce them.
They're not addressed in this one. I'm sure they mention the name of the American school, but they don't get into all the different, different
houses.
ones, all the different houses. And instead of calling them muggles, they call them no-mages.
And so it's interesting to see because you don't really see that in the Harry Potter stories because you get to see like the Dursleys' understanding of magic, but you don't really get to see past that. So it's very interesting to kind of see how they interact with the rest of the world because in the movies and in the books you only get to see how the rest of the world interacts with Hogwarts at the train station.
Right.
Like you don't get to see and the night bus. They kind of go down London a little bit.
Right. This is the first film that's primarily in the non-magical world for the entire runtime.
Right. Yeah. Well, except for when he enters his suitcase, which is so cool.
Right.
Yeah, because I was kind of wondering. I was like, oh, how are they going to make it so he's talking to those animals? Like, obviously the case expands, but, oh my goodness, the case expands.
Right. And it's like it's like a zoo, basically, and every creature has its own environment.
Which is so fun, because at the same time, you can see how they did it in the studio, because you can see the tarp in the background kind of fluttering in the breeze.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the same time, he made this in his suitcase. So, of course he'd use a tarp.
Right.
But it was kind of cool.
And we're talking about, and I will get more into this when I'm in the studio, but talking about interacting with no-mages, the main character they do that with is Kowalski,
Mm-hmm.
Who I liked a lot, but I won't get into that. But he has an interesting dynamic with there's a couple sisters,
Mm-hmm.
And
Queenie and Tina,
and one who can read minds, which that seems to be kind of a new addition. I mean, I haven't really.
Yeah, they don't really. I mean, that I think is solely. Well, obviously it's a new concept. It's
Right.
not anything that had been mentioned
I
before.
didn't because I haven't read the books. I'm sorry. So I wasn't aware if there were characters that were introduced that had that ability.
Well, I mean, it's occlumency, I think, is the term, where you actually can read and penetrate other people's minds. I mean, Snape and Harry go about it
Right.
when Harry's trying to learn how to not let Voldemort in, but there's no like full on like, oh, I can look at you and read your mind.
Right.
I think it's more of you have to train yourself to do it. So I know Snape can do it.
Right.
I think Dumbledore can do it, but there's no like, yeah, she's a mind reader. That's
Right. She
not
just has this
mentioned.
natural ability.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's mentioned when they talk about Trelawney, but she's so much of a ditz that
Right. She's so
she can see
loopy.
the grim. That's
Right.
about it. Um, but yeah, I had a comment and then I lost it. But Queenie, I really liked her. I liked her a lot. I liked the sister dynamic. Oh, and that's what I was going to say is if you have access to the Fantastic Beasts textbook, I would recommend if you haven't already and you call yourself a Harry Potter nerd, you should definitely read it and then go see the movie and then go read it again because I read it when you gave it to
Right.
me
You can play.
and
You basically you can play spot the creatures.
right. And then, as my coworker and I were discussing, what creature was that? Because it wasn't in the textbook.
Hmm. Well, I was reading. There's this, or I watched a video. There's one creature who's a giant flying creature that wasn't in the book, and
Uh-huh.
one person theorized that Newt Scamander intentionally left it out of the book because he wanted to preserve that creature in the
Well, you
environment and
know,
not have it be poached or something.
well, it's really cool, and I really appreciate the fact that J.K. Rowling was so involved in writing the screenplay. And I actually want to buy the screenplay because when I purchased the screenplay for Inception, I noticed that there were things written in the book that didn't actually make the movie
Right.
and were said differently. So I'm curious to know if there's something in the screenplay and like the
Because
printed
there's
version,
there's always this shooting script, and then things change when you
right, the
start
actual
shooting them.
script.
Right.
But what was I saying? I totally lost it. Oh, in the textbook, it's really cool because there's a little thing at the end where it's Newt Scamander's like little bio thing. And, you know, I won't spoil it, but it's very interesting to
It
see.
reveals connections between the characters that in the
Mm-hmm.
movie.
It does. And it made me go all giddy inside, so.
And this is the first of five. There's definitely some setting up of future things to happen. Um,
There's
and
some
what
definite, like, obvious giveaways, too, with, at least with Grindelwald's character in the beginning.
right? And there's a character who's kind of sinister. You don't know if he's good or bad, played by Colin Farrell.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a connection between the big bad. And I don't want to spoil. It's basically already out there on the internet, but I don't want to spoil who's playing the new big bad. He doesn't
Right.
show up until the very end.
And there's a lot of, well, I mean, you don't want to spoil it, but now that you brought it up, I kind of want to talk about it. But there's a lot of controversy with that, and if you don't know who it is, if you do know who it is, I'm not really sure how I feel
Hmm.
because this person I used to like idolize, and in years like since or in recent years, recent months, I have kind of lost my interest. So I'm hoping that this person is able to make a character that's very distinguished from some of the other ones that he's played in the past, and it's not a repeat of. Because all I can think of is a repeat of a cuckoo character,
Hmm.
and I don't want to see that again.
Right.
So,
Or actually, what was your favorite creature?
what was my favorite creature?
Yeah.
The Niffler.
The Niffler.
And then the monkey, which I can't think of the name at the moment.
Oh, you mean the little plant thing?
No, the monkey.
The like the sloth-like thing,
Yes.
who can disappear.
Yes.
Yeah.
I liked him. But yeah, the movie was just so good. There there was the character like the boy. There's a boy. There's a family of orphans
Hmm.
throughout the movie that you kind of go weave in and out of what they mean to the storyline, and it was a twist that I didn't see coming.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw it
I
coming.
did not see it coming, but the
Um,
Colin Farrell character,
Oh, that twist I didn't see coming either
Yeah,
at first.
he is trying to manipulate this young boy, young man, into revealing he believes that he has a connection to a little girl who will be able to control this entity that is destroying the city.
Hmm. And that actually isn't really talked about in the Harry Potter movies or books, although um, we just recently watched, I think it was the sixth one,
Yes.
where a girl gets taken over by a curse. So I was wondering if that was a similar concept because it looked the same, like the
Yeah.
black magic goop. But at any rate, the orphan concept I think was good to the story because it
Hmm.
made the the bad guy basically and the demon that was terrorizing the city. But I'm curious as to what it will transpire in the other movies because I want to just see more of Newt and
Yeah.
his
And
creatures
Kowalski
and
and the
Queenie.
sisters and like, yeah.
So I thoroughly enjoyed it. If you're a Harry Potter nerd like myself and you wear scarves and have crests on your wall that you hand drew, you should go see it now.
All right. So back to me in the studio.